Hello, my name is Eric, and welcome to the Deep End Podcast, where we feature artists, songwriters, and musicians who dig a little deeper and who aren't afraid to dive into the deeper issues of life. Come and join us for music and conversation in the Deep End.
Sometimes it's best not to know. Sometimes it's best not to be told a thing, baby.
Hello, everyone. This is Eric, and this is a Deep End Podcast. It's kind of a reformatted Deep End, and excited about this format. We're going to continue to focus on artists that are doing deeper stuff, deeper lyrics, cool music, and my first guest is going to be Nathan Donaldson, singer-songwriter, superb. And Nathan, welcome to the Deep End.
Thank you, Eric. I'm glad to be here.
So Nathan, we need a little background. Can you tell us just a little, broadly, give us some background on Nathan Donaldson?
Yeah, sure. I'm Nathan Donaldson. I'm a folk singer. I live here in Louisville, but I grew up in a small town in Tennessee called Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is probably about an hour from Nashville, kind of a small rural community. And I've been writing songs since I was pretty young, probably 13 or so, and various bands throughout the years. And eventually I came here to Louisville, Kentucky, and I've really been enjoying living here.
Awesome. Now, what made you start playing music? I mean, what inspired you to get started?
Oh, man. My whole life, I was always, I had older cousins and friends that had a lot of musical interests, but I never really found my own. And I'd say until my mom, she, kind of a funny story, she got a cassette tape of the Counting Crows album, August and Everything After. And that was the first album that I heard deep lyrics, and it was really, really inspiring to find a band that, you really didn't always know what the songs were about, but you could tell that they were about something, and there's something about those vague imagery kind of lyrics. It was always really beautiful to me. And so later on, when I, eventually started figuring out how to play guitar, I mean, from the get-go, I was starting to try to write melodies and things, and then words, and my best attempts to try to, express my emotions musically. I think that's kind of how it all kind of began, is that little inspiration, and just trying to do my own thing later on, even before my talent had caught up.
Well, when did you start songwriting then? What age?
Yeah, so I got a guitar when I was 13. But back in these days, I'd say in the 90s, probably when that was, or maybe, like mid-90s, early 90s, there was no YouTube, and also in a little town like this, there actually were resources. I just didn't know about them. Like, there were guitar lessons, and I'm sure my mom would have bought them for me, and my dad, but I didn't know. And so I was just trying to figure it out. I met this guy at church, and my mom said, will you show him some things? But he was trying to show me chords, and I wasn't there yet. And it just seemed overly complicated, but I did get a chord book, but it was just a slow process. So anyway, 13, got that guitar, didn't really pick it up again until I was like 14. And then immediately from out of the gate, I would start writing these little single string things, or like boom, 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 boom. Honestly, I was meant to be a bass player, which came later. But anyway, single string little melodies and things, and then I would start to imagine words over them. And then eventually I got a bigger picture when I met a guy who kind of showed me the ropes on guitar a little bit, and a friend that I learned along with. And really out of the gate, I was writing songs, or trying to. I don't know how good they were.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the songwriting process for you. Now that you've become accomplished at songwriting, and what's the process like for you?
A lot of times I just find myself always with a guitar in my hand, whether we're watching TV or just sitting around having coffee. I'll have my guitar in my lap, and I'll start kind of playing around with chords, and most of my songs begin with a chord progression. Occasionally I'll hear a melody driving down the road, and I'll record it in my phone and go back later. But for the most part, I'll play a chord progression, and I'm drawn to like a nice full-bodied C, for example, and then maybe I'll go to a minor, and maybe I'll go back to the C, and just kind of the vibe of it all. And then I start to kind of imagine a melody, and then maybe I'll start kind of throwing some filler words in there, which might lead me to a direction for the song. Occasionally I'll know what I'm writing about from the get-go. For the most part, I don't, And so the melody kind of leads way to chords, and then maybe I'll, stew on that for a few days, record it in my phone, listen to it while I'm driving. Before you know it, I'm starting to put it together more. And thankfully, sometimes it'll all just kind of roll out of me. Sometimes it takes about, a few weeks to a year, and then before I finally have something that I would consider a complete song. And then bouncing the ideas off, of you and some of my other, musical friends in here and back home in Tennessee, just to kind of, hey, what do you think of this? What are your feedback? And feedback really is really helpful. And I think that's kind of my process for the most part,
Now you mentioned the lyrical part. I really love your lyrics of your songs, and of course you're on the deep end because your lyrics have some depth to them. Is that something you think about, or is that just kind of something that flows naturally out of you?
I don't think about the depth. After the fact, I think a lot about it. I think, it's almost insightful really to go back and look at them, and think, especially as a season in my life changes and I look back on that time and I think, oh man, I was really going through it there. But anyway, kind of along those lines, I think music for me is really therapeutic, and a lot of times just getting it out and maybe saying something lyrically that is so deep that it really is coming from, the darkest place or maybe the brightest place. It just depends on what I'm writing, but singing it with all my heart, it really takes the weight off my shoulders to some degree. And so I think it is kind of my therapy. It always has been. When I was a teenager, maybe some silly girl dumped me, or I'd realize slowly that this person isn't right for me or whatever. I mean, I remember just emotionally playing on an electric guitar before I even had the talent. So what I'm saying is, from then all the way to now as a mature adult who still finds solace in songwriting, I think it's always been that for me, Okay, this is a song called Falling Away to Dream. And I wrote this song when we first moved to Louisville. I felt like I was always chasing my tail educationally for so long, just always up to something. And finally I graduate and I get to get the job I went to school forever to have. And there we were in our house that we finally got to like to have. We're settled down on a couch, and I look across and Chrissy's asleep. My dogs are cuddled up, and I think, gosh, this is just so nice. And then this beautiful song kind of came to me, and I wrote it all in one session, and it was done. And I may have added a little thing here and there, but here we go. This is called Falling Away to Dream. And closing your eyes to sleep, falling away to dream, closing your eyes to sleep, I'm falling away. I used to be all alone now, complete but broken too somehow. The TV glow making shadows, your eyes are closed with scenes below. Love you like the last time, I love you like the last time, closing your eyes to sleep, falling away to dream, closing your eyes to sleep, I'm falling away. Splashing the water unknown on the back of a fish we're toe to toe. The sands are so soft with you here, lying beside me we disappear. I love you like the last time, I love you like the last time, falling away to sleep, falling away to dream, closing your eyes to sleep, I'm falling away.
My beautiful bride, you are mine. Asleep on a whale that rose through time. The glimmering love that we've paired. I cherish the old, the new, the shared. I love you like the last time. I love you like the last time. Closing your eyes to sleep. Falling away to dream. Closing your eyes to sleep. I'm falling away. Closing your eyes, I'm falling away. Closing your eyes, I'm falling away. Closing your eyes.
I want to speak to your lyrical content. There seems to be, at least in some of your songs, a theme of dealing with grief.
Mm-hmm.
Is that accurate? I know there's a few songs that
Yeah,
I've kind of picked up on that theme.
It's very accurate. Yeah. I think when I was younger, before I had really lost anyone in this life, they were still about grief, but they were often grief about relationships, whether that be friendships that kind of turned out to be toxic that I had to kind of do away with, or a love relationship, a girl maybe I was just so in love with, but it just didn't work out. And I would just grieve the loss of what that should have been to me or whatever, all the way up till as I grew up. And, one thing's for sure, I always really related to sad songs on the album, whether even, every band I grew up listening to, there was always some slow, sad, just pull at my heart kind of songs, and before you know it, one example is back to the Counting Crows. And I'm not some huge Counting Crows fan. I'm just using them as an example, but the Raining in Baltimore song, I remember as a teenager, just riding along in my car, thinking about some girl that dumped me. Ooh, but all the way up to now. And I think now I have the ability to create those songs, and I try not to make all my songs that way. Honestly, I don't have a lot of control over what happens. It just kind of, you just kind of write the song, right? But the grief aspect, my brother-in-law passed away, my wife's little brother, Evan, he passed away a few years ago. And it hit me harder than anything, because he was the closest person I ever lost. And so a lot of my songs do have that theme. They really do, because it was my therapy at the time to just say, especially my song, if you can find it on Spotify, the Beauty But There Is Pain. I wrote that in his house. We're staying in his house because we needed a place to stay before his funeral. And so I'm just walking around looking at all his things and looking at this house and, his clothes and things and his hat hanging and his shoes. And almost like at any moment he could come walking back in and just take over his life again. But of course he wouldn't. And so it just came out, and so a lot of my songs, deep inspiration came from just the depths of my sadness during that time, and then as time has gone, and I'm not saying I've moved on, but as I've moved forward, just these little situations in life where maybe I should feel happy, but there's it's stained with a little bit of grief, it's just a little bit of loss and everything. And so a lot of my songs are about that too, and also happiness. I've got other themes, but you're right. That's a solid observation there, Eric.
Well, many of your songs have a bit of melancholy to them, but there's a sweetness to your songs. And what another theme that I pick up on, and we're going to have Nathan play some of his tunes a little bit later and intermixed with this podcast, but I've also noticed there's quite a few what I call love songs, although maybe not the teenage variety, but more the mature love songs, or love songs that are more in the deep end range. Is that something that would be accurate?
Yeah, that's very accurate too, Eric. I think, you know, when you've been with somebody for a long time, you know, what love looks like, right? You know, when you're first with somebody, and what love is like then is very different than what love looks like after 15 years of marriage, for example, and what that really feels like and is. But I do find I really have a strong pull to write love songs. In fact, I once wrote a song that I never did anything with, but it was called "I'm Stuck Writing Love Songs," which is funny because sometimes I felt like I want to write other topics, but I'm really drawn to that because I think it reflects the importance of, you know, my marriage and my relationship, you know, and I do try to sprinkle that stuff in, and a lot of it is like it almost feels like I'm letting someone know, hey, you really mean a lot to me, you know. So yeah, that's safe to say. Is that kind of a
Well, one of my favorites is Honeydew.
Mm-hmm.
And can you give any insight into the inspiration for Honeydew?
Absolutely. And I'll say Honeydew is actually one of my favorite that I've written. You know, so I hear a lot of my songs, and to say I'm proud of them is an understatement. It's not like a pride, like an ugly pride, but just wow, that feels like somebody else wrote that, and I'm proud of it, you know. So Honeydew, that's kind of funny you ask about that one particularly because that is about grief and love, and I think in the aftermath of what I told you earlier, you know, there we were, you know, and this is her little brother. This feels like my little brother just because I met him when he was 12, you know. Well, here we were navigating through this grieving process together, and it was the depths of sadness that you know, she felt or I felt. The song is about having someone to grieve with and not grieving alone, and also not grieving without faith, and you know, I can't imagine being alone during such a process. You know, we really sometimes when she would be weak, I would be strong, and when she would be strong for me when I was weak, and you know, we would really pull each other through. You know, some of the lyrics are, and all this time we lean on each other's shoulders, and you know, up this hill we've pushed on each other's boulder, and
that's one of my favorite lyrics.
Yeah, that is truly what that's saying is, you know, it's best not to be, you know, it's just best not to be alone in such a process. So yeah, that song is really, really something that still speaks to me when I, you know, listen back to it. It kind of reminds me of where we went, where we've come from, and where we're going, you know.
And all this time we've leaned on each other's shoulder. We both shed a healthy dose of tears. And up this hill we've pushed on each other's boulder. You've always been my symmetry somewhere near. But does it seem the water brings me solace in a world so full of time anxiety? Find ourselves alone in our wooden palace. Our time together sets my soul at ease. My honeydew, honeydew, oh yeah, honeydew, honeydew, honeydew. And now this part of me that's gone I could find within you. I sure hope you find some puzzle piece in me. And this pattern of my grief, well, it always feels new by the water that ripples with peace. And when my life in review is played before me, yeah, the best things that I've had will be with you. When this humming old projector stops its whirling, we will float beyond the planets, me and you. My honeydew, honeydew, oh yeah, honeydew, my honeydew, honeydew. through these passing years, looks like we've gotten older. You know I'm confident we're never done with grief. And this life is pain in a rearview, getting closer. And you were the one who stole my heart when it would be my honeydew.
Also want to ask you just about being an independent artist. What are the challenges and joys of it? Can you give me one challenge and one joy to be an independent artist or a singer-songwriter, or however you want to couch that?
Yeah, sure. Sometimes, I feel like, okay, first off, I feel like I had to recognize one thing that got me out of being so self-critical over especially lyrics was, for one, getting out and playing, in front of people and open mics, and people would point out, hey, I like your lyrics. Really? Oh, thank you. And so one thing that really had to happen was I had to recognize, who am I writing for? And I had to recognize I'm writing for me, and I hope that in that process, the songs that come out would be relatable to other people. And so far that's been true. I've heard from people. I think the challenge is I work so hard to make a recording, to make an album, to make an EP, and I put everything I have into it. And sometimes I feel like it just gets lost in the void. There's this ocean of people out there. And the way music works now, as you know, Eric, with Spotify and these online streaming things, it's almost a little bit, like you have to pay for people to hear you. And sure, if that's the way it works, that's fine. But sometimes after you pay for people to hear you, you still don't feel like it's really gaining any traction. And I think what I really desire, I just desire for like these songs that I write that I'm hoping are helpful to people. I hope somebody's actually helped by it. I hope people actually do get to hear it. And sometimes I feel like I'm just kind of playing for no one, and that's a challenge, right?
Absolutely. I'm right there with you, Nathan, as we've had these kinds of discussions before. I wanted to ask you about your recording process. You do a lot of your own recording in your home studio.
I do, yeah.
What's that process like for you? What are the challenges and joys of that process?
So if you take this back years and years and years, when I want to say 16, I got a hold of an 8-track tape recorder. And really my love for recording music began all the way back then, because the idea that I could layer music, but then it was on a cassette tape, it was crazy cool, and I would mix all these songs, all these parts, we'd poorly mic drum kits and all kinds of things. And then I would, hit play onto a CD burner, and then I would duck out different things and arrange it. And it was super cool. I released an album, almost right out of the gate. I really had no business doing this, but that sparked a huge love for trying to record music. And the quality lagged for many, many, many years. But now the technology has caught up. And so the process now, I like to kind of knock around the idea of different tempos and things when I'm thinking about bringing a song in. Usually lay down, scratch guitar and vocals, and then just start building off of that. And, I like to collaborate with other people. You, of course, have played bass on quite a few of my songs, including Honeydew, and I believe you played bass on Okra Plant. And also the company Fiverr. I like to find real niche musicians on there, like maybe it be a pedal steel fellow in England that's done some work. Steve Giddings is his name, or Anna Blanton locally to play fiddle for me. But just to bring in people to listen, and then give me their take on what they would lay down for me. And so I just layer it, just building the song bit by bit, and then before you know it, I've got a pretty good thing. Trying to listen to it on several audio systems and send it for feedback to my friends, especially my friend in Alabama, Chase Perriman. He's a pretty prolific songwriter down there, and he's good at recording too. It's also his hobby, and so bouncing ideas off friends, then have it mastered, and then release it. So
you do a great job with the recordings.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. I'm sure it's great because you have the control over everything and the timing and. But you do a great job sonically, and so
I will say that sometimes I just want to go in a studio though and have somebody else do it, because I do feel like it's a little limiting sometimes, because having a producer to then take it away from me and be like, I think you should go in this direction. I do kind of, at some point, I think I want to hire some other people, but I do like having the ability to. And thank you for the compliments there. I'm glad they sound good.
they do.
Yeah.
Now, hey Nathan, another one of my favorite songs that you've written is that song about your dad, and it's called "The Man That I Am."
Yeah.
Can you give a little background of what inspired that song, and we're gonna have you play that as well in a little bit.
Sure. What inspired it? Well, so I started with this riff that was just kind of cool and repetitive, and then it started just making me think about my childhood, and so when I started to kind of play it, it made me think about my parents, and at first I started like thinking about little quirky things like my dad coming home from work, home from work, my giant friend, from the perspective of a child, there's my dad, he's this big, massive person who I wasn't allowed to hug because he worked in a boat factory when he came home from work. He worked in a boat factory and he would wear this jumpsuit thing, and he worked in fiberglass, and I was not allowed to hug him when he first walked in the house because I would get fiberglass all over me and it would itch really bad. So he'd be like, hang on a minute. And he'd come home and go change, and then we'd hug, it was just super funny. I just had that memory, because I'm just dying to see him, and he comes home, and, that's a funny memory. So that when I think about that line, that's what I'm talking about. So, but anyway, it really started out as about both of my parents, I am the man that I am because of you, and those are the lines. But then I just kept finding more and more material about my dad. Just kept kind of coming forward, and so maybe when I do reveal this song to him, I could also tell my mom, honestly, it's really about you too. But there's just a lot of stuff about my dad, particularly, taking me to playing creeks, always putting me in your plans. He really was a great dad. I was always a fan of the song "Cats in the Cradle." And so that was an inspiration for this song in a lot of ways, except I wanted to look at it at kind of a different perspective. Is like, what if the kid actually had a great dad? And I did. My dad's a really great guy. He's kind, he's funny, and he really was one of my best friends growing up. We fished, and he's always taking me camping. And honestly, I'm surprised he continued to, because there was times when I really didn't want to go sleep out in a tent. There were times when I really didn't want to go catfishing and, in a cold morning, all these funny things, but I'm really grateful for the life that I have. And, growing up, I had a great childhood. I mean, I really did, other than bullies and things in school, but my home life was solid. I had didn't have it all, but we had everything in a lot of ways,
Well, I love that line. There's no cats in the cradle. Is that the line?
Yeah, there's no cats in the cradle. I had a dad that I really knew. I was raised by a man who had to fight his own way through. There's no cats in the cradle. I had a dad that I really knew. I'm the man that I am because I was raised by you. That was the line.
Yeah. And cats in the cradle was like when I was growing up, that was it was right in my generation, and was a big song at the time.
Kind of funny, by the way, about that song is my mom would say things like, "Hey, you coming in this weekend?" And I'd be like, "No, I can't make it." She'd be like, "It's okay, cats in the cradle." She would use this song as a funny, like, guilting thing, Anyway.
And I have followed you as you have taught me to grow up to be a man. And in this life of mine, I wish I had more time to spend more days with my dad. And there's no cat in my cradle and a dad that I really knew, 'cause I was raised by a man who had to find his own way through. There's no cat in my cradle and a dad that I really knew, yeah. 'Cause I'm the man that I am, 'cause I was raised by you. How I remember you, wild hair when I was 2, and friend. Building boats in a factory, taking me to playing creeks. You always put me in your plans. And there's no cat in the cradle and a dad that I really knew. 'Cause I was raised by a man who had to find his own way through. There's no cat in the cradle and a dad that I really knew, yeah. 'Cause I'm the man that I am, 'cause I was raised by you. All grown up, but I still remember the most magical Decembers when we weren't rich, but had it all. I'm me, but a part of you, some example of what to do. You may stumble, never fall. There's no cat in my cradle and a dad that I really knew. 'Cause I was raised by a man who had to find his own way through. There's no cat in my cradle and a dad that I really knew. 'Cause I'm the man that I am, 'cause and I'm the man that I am, 'cause and I'm the man that I am, 'cause I was raised by you.
We've talked a little bit about your songwriting journey, but what are your influences? Who are your influences? I mean, you described yourself as a folk artist, but is that how you would pretty much describe your music? And what bands, what artists influenced you?
I was always a big growing up. I was always a big fan of the Counting Crows I mentioned earlier, and now I'm really not. I mean, truly, I don't sit around listening to it. But other people would be like James Taylor. I was always a huge James Taylor fan. I like his style. I like that emotional voice, and really his lyric, like Fire and Rain. Those lyrics are just, they hit you. Even growing up when you don't understand everything about it. There were aspects of the Beatles that I really loved. I also had a lot of Southern rock influences, like I loved CCR was a huge influence for me. I mean, massive. I loved a lot of their songs. And otherwise, other than that, I think John Denver was a huge one. I happened to run across an album of his, and that Carolina on My Mind song was always going to Carolina. That song. That song was always really pretty to me. But like, just basically the powerhouse that is, a folk singer with just a guitar and a voice, yet they can compel you. And I think another one, a big one would be, Bob Dylan was a big one. And he wrote a lot of the other songs that I liked. I loved Jimi Hendrix growing up as well. And especially the song All on the Watchtower, which I believe Bob Dylan wrote, if I'm not mistaken. And along with many, 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 many others. But I'd say that's my answer there. Those are my influences.
Those are some really good influences, Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that in your music. Now, we also talked about being an artist, an independent artist, and I think there's different ways to view success as an independent artist. I mean, first of all, what are your hopes like for your music, and what do you see as, how do you gauge success? If you're being successful, if you're doing what you want to do.
In a lot of ways, I feel pretty successful with music, especially after coming to the city. I've met a lot of great people to play with. I've had some really great shows here, different breweries, or, some of the shows at the Monarch, which we all love, here in Louisville. I think success, though, where I would feel successful would be like, maybe something would finally break through. I really would like that. I don't dream of being like so famous I can't live, I can't walk around. I don't really dream of that. Honestly, I would have to be pretty dang successful to replace my current career, because I feel like I have a good life and I'm very comfortable. I guess what I'm saying is to replace that with like some touring lifestyle of being all over that actually doesn't sound all that appealing. What sounds appealing though would be like maybe I release a song that I poured myself into its recording process and its writing, and maybe this whole album, it just starts rolling. This is what I daydream about, is like maybe I just get a whole lot of people suddenly interested in hearing me do a little tour. Maybe it's not my whole life, but maybe I pack out smaller venues all over the country, and maybe I get to do that once a year. That sounds pretty great. But really success though, I think I'll feel successful if I can just continually keep writing, because there's some part of me that feels like, will this keep going? I think I have a fear that I'll just I will stop. The creative juices will quit flowing.
Oh man,
yeah.
You have
that
a
fear
real fear for me as
yeah.
well. And it's just like, oh man, it's just going to stop. And you just kind of want to take advantage of it while it's there. Right.
And I look back at like Honeydew and these songs that I feel so proud of. I'm like, will I be able to do that again? I hope so. I don't know.
Yeah, I have full confidence in you, Nathan, and hopefully me as well. So we hit on this just a little bit earlier, but what do you consider the potential listener when you're writing? I mean, do you have hopes for what the listener will experience or might get from your tunes?
I used to really do that. I almost always wrote in some way of like, I just imagine this person. It's always the same person in my mind. But I used to always imagine that they're out there somewhere and they happen to hear this song and they're like, oh man, this is so great. And like, this means so much to me. Oh, I can get through this. But I think that almost was inhibiting in some ways, because I would be really self-conscious about the lyrics because of this person that wasn't real. I think sadly, maybe not sadly, but I think the reality, maybe is a better way to put it, is that music is so, I hate to use the word disposable, but it's just so easy to come by now. Like it's just everywhere, and the chances that it's gonna just land in somebody's ears and they're gonna be like, this is amazing, I'm a true fan, it just seems a little less likely or whatever. And I feel like my best words come from when I just forget about them and I just write these songs, and really I start to think more. This is kind of interesting you asked that. I start to think more about people like you and people like my music friends, and like, I wonder how this will sit with them. What kind of things will they like to do in this song? You as somebody that often plays bass for me, what sort of cool bass line might Eric think about for this? And then that might actually influence my strum pattern or my rhythm or whatever. Or I think about, Andy, Branton playing lead, and I think, man, that would be a cool thing. So often I think about the arrangement now more, but that often comes a little later after the writing. So I think when I'm writing, I am often just picturing myself, but sometimes I'll write something super weird and then I'll find myself thinking about that audience member again and them thinking, what's this?
Well, I, for one, am glad that your music reached my ears
thank you, man.
At that open mic in
so
Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
And an important question we got to ask you, very deep question, is where can people hear Nathan Donaldson's music? What's the best way to hear these songs?
I think all the usual streaming platforms. It's all under my name, Nathan Donaldson. You can find, I think my most current, bigger release would be my EP, OK Currents. But then since then I've done things like Honeydew and It All Works Out. Anyway, all these things are on Spotify. They're on Apple Music. They're on all the places you'd find them. I do a lot on TikTok, which you can find Nathan Donaldson Music. I like to put little show videos and put things together. I have some plans for maybe some music videos to be associated with some of these songs. And then, of course, Instagram. I'm not a big fan of my Facebook music page as much, but my Instagram, I'm pretty active on there, and TikTok. And but I'd say that's the answer. I'm on all those streaming places too, and I really hope that maybe you'll take a listen out there.
Yeah, that's an encouragement from me, from Eric, from the deep end, please go and search for Nathan's music. It's important that we support independent music, at least in my view. And if you like what you heard from Nathan, which I know you will, please go search out his music, listen, give him some streams and activity and encouragement. But I just want to say thank you, Nathan, for being on the Deep End, the new inaugural edition of the Deep End, and for all of your support and songwriting encouragement and adding bass to my tunes and all that you do for me. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Eric. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for having me. Really excited to kind of hear where this podcast goes, and also very thankful for your friendship to me as well. I'm glad we got to meet here in the music scene in Louisville for sure. So thank you for having me.
All right, this is Eric, and thanks to Nathan Donaldson again, and this is the Deep End Podcast. See you next time.
Up anxious, walked out aching inside. Tell me what fear you're holding. I hate to see you carry that. I keep trying to be steady, be the calm in all you plan, but the lists keep growing longer and mirror really am. Wish I could lift you as light as a feather, wrap my heart around yours in leather. Just two souls brave in the weather. Your storms are my storms. I'm tethered forever to you. To the shoreline, build a turtle in the sand, leave this cluttered little castle, run where the ocean takes our hand. Talk to God in the sunset, feel your breathing rise and fall. So dance to the Monte, let the world start to fall. I could lift you as light as a feather, wrap my heart around yours in leather. Two souls brave in the weather. Your storms are my storms, and I'm tethered forever to you. To you. Straight through. And when the night sends cold and shaky, and my old fears become brand new, there is a peace in the making. I'd shoulder the climb with you. Wish I could lift you as light as a feather, is light as a feather, is light as a feather. Together, forever, forever, tethered to you.
You have been listening to the Deep End Podcast. Contact us at deependfm@gmail.com for comments or to give us artist recommendations. Follow us on Instagram at deependfm. Stay tuned for more under-the-surface music and conversation on the Deep End.
Let's come